Hello, I'm the Deer Runner. In this analysis video, I'm going to make a single comprehensive theory on Five Nights at Freddy's Balloon Girl. By analyzing the point in time and design links to Balloon Boy and then Balloon Boy's possession links to Mangle that seem unrelated, but when combined, unlock more information than either one would alone. I'll be using every aspect of Mangle's quest and BB's Air Balloon adventure, as I believe all these things are related. This design that Balloon Girl has was actually first used in a restaurant that she appears in. As the audio says, the company decided to go in a whole new direction with the new animatronics making them super kid friendly. And all of the older animatronics are furry instead of plastic toy-like appearance of Balloon Girl and the new animatronics, which places her in the group of animatronics created specifically for the restaurant she appears in, not some other location at some point in the past. Newspaper says this restaurant is only open for a few weeks, and the training tape says summertime, but the paycheck says November, and the restaurant seems to have been open for a little while with how the recordings were going, so it probably was open for a couple months, which makes Balloon Girl only available for a short time. We can get a clear picture of what she's supposed to look like for FNAF World, which we all suspected by her features being similar to Balloon Boy's. And since her mouth is in a fixed smile, that happy expression would be the only visual look for her. Which her eyes actually look sad, so possession was the only thing that has been shown that can create a different emotion, so this confirms she is possessed, as we completely expected. Balloon Boy and Balloon Girl are the only two animatronics that closely look alike in the second restaurant, so there'll probably be a special performance area for them. Public area that Balloon Boy appears on camera, the area is very cramped, that seems to have the main route to the dining area in Kids Cove, and has a popular carousel that makes this very crowded. This path would need to be kept clear and has very little space open for performance. But Balloon Boy goes to an area off camera and then appears very close to your office, which Balloon Girl appears very close to where Balloon Boy appears. The animatronics move in very specific routes, even positioning themselves in certain ways on the cameras, adding enough predictability to fight back. They want revenge, they don't want to give you a chance, but act like normal animatronics during the day, so the revenge must be obviously conflicting with the programming. But a place designed for both of them to go to wouldn't conflict with the programming. Balloon Boy shares an unusual connection to Mangle through the nighttime behavior and minigame. In the office, they attack in one of the offices normally and they strike you, but in the other office, once they get into your line of sight, in an attack mode, they don't really attack your character directly, they attack it in an indirect way, not actually touching your character, and stay still. No other animatronic has done that. These two animatronics have a minigame, but if you line up the start positions up and lay the maps on top of each other, the rooms occupying the same space show a large amount of similarities. Looking at this as if it was a 3x3 map set up as if it was phone buttons, the 4, 5, and 8 have stationary balloons on the map that can't be removed, surrounding the 7th block that is blank. The top level you have to collect parts each worth 100 points, in which you have to collect all the parts on the top level to be able to go to the lower levels. On the 9th block, the puppet and the big changing color balloon is there. Now both of these things is from an existing set, but these two are outliers that are very much more powerful than the rest, with the puppet being the original animatronic and shows all these powerful things that the others don't, and a balloon is bigger and changing colors while the other balloons are just one color and small. Both of these images have a similar theme, powerful. The amount of similarities between these two minigames haven't been shown in between any others. Now we have two things linked to Balloon Boy. Now I'll try to get a convincing interpretation between Balloon Boy and Mangle by linking it to Balloon Girl's data. Balloon Girl shares similarities to them. 3 go into a stationary position in FNAF 2 office without the lights flickering and can potentially stay much longer than any other animatronic. Balloon Girl doesn't strike a character directly, like they do in one of the two offices they appear in. Similarities in the minigames are with the maps, not the characters. It's just that these two animatronics are represented in one or the other. If there is a connection to Balloon Girl in this, to meet that criteria, the room with the tree and the 3 balloon kids, but Balloon Boy already represented. The 3 kids being balloon girls. There are exits everywhere for the other two animatronics, making there be no rule how many spaces they have to occupy, just that they're represented in one or the other minigame. There are 3 instead of 1 Balloon Girl, but there are 3 animatronics that seem to share unusual similarities. This could represent them all being linked in some way. We looked at the rest of the static background pictures for a detailed interpretation. The puppet and the tree are the same size. With the way the puppet is shown, its arms and legs aren't seen as branching from it. Instead, the puppet is shown as a single cylindrical body, with it going to one end is significantly thicker than the other end. More likely represent the trunk of the tree. The puppet is the original source of all the hauntings. Everything that is possessed can trace its history back to the puppet, and we've seen non-animatronic things get possessed by animatronics other than the puppet, while that animatronic was created by the puppet. Like a branch of a tree that has branches of their own sticking out of them. This identical representation of three animatronics could state that there are three separate branches. And since these last three are not the core of the tree, they are extremely smaller as well. But the size, similarities, and representation together, if there is a relevant interpretation, we would have three identical things branching from a single part of the tree. That a single thing created this distinct similarities in the three animatronics. And a crying? Well, this is a bunch of children got murdered creating this. Now, the description by this tree, other than Balloon Kids, didn't need the puppet explanation to have it, the number 8 block represent itself, and it is located where Balloon Girl is, which are all represented in very similar ways, which Mangle and Balloon Boy also start in the same position, and are represented in very similar ways in how they interact with the minigames. This could be saying that these two groups have a distinct difference between each other. This gives strong indication that these large amount of similarities between the three are not coincidences. Mangle is located in a room called Kids Cove, which is next to Balloon Boy's room, so potentially whatever this thing is may have strong ties to Kids Cove. You can see on the map it shows there's no direct route to your office from Kids Cove, but these maps have been shown not to cover all areas. And having vents in your office like that, big enough to have any animatronic crawl through. There'll probably be vents like that throughout the whole restaurant, so you can check any blueprint with a vent. That's what is always shown. And Balloon Boy's not stunned by the flashing lights in the hallways that he would have gotten hit by if he tried to make a way through the regular hallways. The vents would be the only thing that makes sense, so Kids Cove could possibly be the location where Balloon Girl and Balloon Boy meet up, and what's causing this. But Kids Cove has the most amount of inconsistencies than any other place in the restaurant, which is next to Balloon Boy's room. I'm going to have to answer a lot of these inconsistencies to use something this tainted. The description is where the problems come from. The description is an animatronic Mangle was taken apart by children who can't keep their hands off things, and employees eventually gave up on her and left her in some type of take part put back together attraction. How is she in the exact same shape every night? Now we can't say it's because she's possessed, because she has a camera on her at all times, and even if deactivated, the camera would have drawn the attention to the security guards and would have noticed something was wrong. With that being a touch everything attraction, that would have translated to touch everything else. Now the presents could have been fake wrapping and ribbon and bolted to the floor, but the party hats not being moved and the strings not being moved, but the kids would have grabbed them. Even if they were placed, there was no reason why they would care about the string position. If this is a take part put back together attraction, kids were not allowed in the area during the week you were in the office. There was a massive amount of weight in Mangle, and she was able to move for a large distance area and stop in 2 seconds, but also has to start and stop in a mid-up position. That had tremendous amounts of power needed. During nighttime mode, that amount of power would have torn Mangle apart if it didn't have engineering precision, which children, I assure you, do not have. The date, 1987 on your paycheck, the currency, and the amount given matching America's minimum wage of that time, which makes it take place in America, which America has strict protection on employees. Now these animatronic attacks endanger the lives of the employees, and there would have been a cover-up to not have any public backlash. Now someone in management must have approved the images of taking apart Mangle and have the phone guy, who seems to be a higher employee, tell you this lie as well. This lie end result to any employee would have been not to enter Kids Cove. You're a nighttime security guard. After that, you just want to get out of there. So you're the least likely person to go in there, but they go out of the way to make sure you don't. So they're probably trying to vent everyone at least who has a security guard uniform as well. So there probably is something in there they want to keep away from the other people. And if Mangle does not take part put back together attraction, then she can't really meet the criteria to be allowed on the sales floor to be around the children because she looks scary. Even if you stop the roaring, turn on the light, replace the background with rainbows and put colorful ponies next to it, it still looks scary. You look at the restroom, you see that table right there? The position of the hats, you see in other parts in which in an open space, children gather around and each get to grab one of the hats that are surrounding the table. But this one's against the wall, making one half of the thing not be able to be accessible, as if it's being stored there. And with the strings not moving, this thing's not been around the sales floor as well. But you can see by the decoration, at least this room was intended at some point to be open to the public. But right now, the most likely explanation is it is being used as a storage room. This place was closed down, we may not actually see the proper setup So we had to determine what was Kid's Cove's purpose beforehand to get more information to try to link it to Balloon Boy and Balloon Girl. Now there's some research I didn't expect to connect to this. It is Freddy Fazbear Pizzeria is based off a real-life restaurant called Chuck E. Cheese's. It's very well established by the community and there's no way it's wrong, so I will move on without putting the lore for that statement. Chuck E. Cheese's, primarily an arcade, pizzeria, and a place for kids to have fun, but every restaurant scene shows no arcade. But the horror attraction made to represent at this point infamous Freddy Fazbear Pizzeria had an arcade. According to the owner, they went to the restaurants to look for authentic Fazbear Pizzeria relics, and throughout the world even went so far as to that they endangered electrical wiring, bleeding to fire hazards. That means this guy was willing to do that, wouldn't put a room so completely wrong with how authentic he wanted it to make it look, and was too specific of a detail of the non-existent Chuck E. Cheese. So I asked, could there be arcades not seen? There are 4 restaurants, but the last 3 restaurants were owned by Fazbear Entertainment, which had a vast more resources and been around much longer than the first single small restaurant, Fredbear Diner. So this attraction probably is based on the last 3 restaurants, which they would have had whatever Fredbear Diner had, plus a lot more. Let's establish the order first. Now the second game restaurant is clearly takes place before the first game restaurant because there's a guy that dies in the first game that clearly describes both restaurants, but he's alive in the second game. So the second game restaurant came first. The second restaurant, a vision of the restaurant the guy died in was shown. Data that is not available can't be shown. It has to have existed. That means the last restaurant is a reopened version of the first restaurant. There's more supporting evidence. FNAF 2 building was a fresh new building with a massive amount of possessed animatronics and the most powerful original marionette animatronic. Last restaurant, the paranormal activity was vastly more prevalent. Even so, it has half the possessed animatronics with many original parts from the original possessed animatronics missing, and a marionette not even shown. It should be completely opposite, unless it has some powerful tie. And before the first restaurant closed, they permanently sealed a room, and that room was not on the camera, which at the point the company made sure everywhere an incident could take place was on camera. So this room was not reused by the company, and whatever was stored in there before they closed it made it into like a time capsule. And there were distinct arcade machines inside. So arcade machines were available in that world Chuck E. Cheese, which also arcades were extremely popular during that time, so there is an arcade in this building. Now the FNAF 2 building, the room that contains a puppet, is where we're going to look. As you see, there are dolls and stuff behind a counter, but that counter has no cash register, which would always be on camera if this was a gift shop, but this would be a perfect setup or a tickets exchange for prizes area that would accompany an arcade. And the name given to this part of the building is called the Prize Corner. Now why would they call a gift shop the Prize Corner? They only give that kind of name to an arcade ticket exchange area. Kids Cove being an arcade going through renovations can include temporary removal of all arcade machines, which lets Kids Cove look like what it does while it can still be an arcade. The last restaurant on camera system is supposed to be designed for a veteran restaurant that has been plagued by a child killer and dangerous animatronics, making the cameras have to cover everywhere an incident could take place, with exceptions on the always manned security room and a bathroom, but compromised with doors being removed for easy access. No camera shows a prize room or an arcade. The kitchen has no visuals, but being a pizzeria, there is dangerous equipment that always needs a camera focused solely on the entire kitchen, leaving no room for an arcade on that camera. So, there was but one conclusion. There is no arcade in this building. This means the company decided to abandon the most fundamental part of what Chuck E. Cheese is and the Fazbear franchise is supposed to be based on, with the sheer popularity of the arcades during the entire existence of the restaurant. That is a massive change. Something unprecedentedly horrible must have happened for them to ever abandon that. That'd be the only way. When you look between the time ranges, there was only one real big reported incident between the FNAF 2 building and the opening of the FNAF 1 building. That could have been isolated in one part of the building, which means the arcade. And horrible enough that they just want to forget that they even existed. The Bite of 87. The Bite of 87 is when an animatronic attacked a person during the year 1987, which is the second restaurant was open. There's no other reported incident that could even come close to being big enough to remove the arcade. So that means since this created a link between the Bite of 87 and FNAF 2 arcade, if I can attach a room in the FNAF 2 building to the Bite of 87, then I connect it to being the arcade. Of course I'll start with Kids Cove. Body 87 victim got the frontal lobe ripped out, which Mangle does bite you at least once before stuffing you into an animatronic suit, and does aim for the base region, which is where the frontal lobe is. The restaurant, when it closed, scrapped the new animatronics due to a potential malfunctioning, which Mangle is one of the new animatronics. The room Mangle was in, if closed, would have had the lights off and the arcade machines off, and the arcades are very large in these offices that drastically reduce sound and sight, simulating a nighttime condition 24 hours a day. So if there's anything that can activate nighttime attack mode made during the day, would be a room set up like that. In the Save the minigame, Mangle's running back and forth from this very start of the game, which could be another shout out that she's always active practically at all times except for right at 6 AM. An early part of the weeks that always weaken the animatronics. Mangle exiting the dark room and going into this massively lit area would act like a flashlight, and that stuns animatronics and keeps them in places until they deactivate the lights and move on. But this area is a giant open area with lights everywhere, something we never seen any animatronic ever be able to deactivate. Visuals outside the room may have trapped Mangle inside the room and kept her in the dark areas of the room, which would explain why the company didn't take action against her during the daytime. Now, Mangle would only attack a security guard, and since it's a day shift, they might not have a flashlight on them. If they entered the room, they would see Mangle crawling around the roof, going into and out of darkness. That'd be something like straight out from a horror film. Severe limited lighting can make things that are visible completely different if they're at different angles, so if a person sees it coming and it skeleton moves around, they make them completely disoriented, and now Mangle's reaching all around them, making noise. They have no idea which way any danger would be, and actually have the potential of walking right into Mangle's jaws. Before moving on, I will tie this information into the Mangle quest and BB's air balloon adventure. They seem to represent a different form of the same thing in each of the spaces. Now, looking at the background in Balloon Boy, it shows more of a daytime condition, while Mangle shows a nighttime condition. But stated before, during the day, Balloon Boy is in a public open area that's daytime condition, but Mangle will be in a simulated nighttime condition. They like to be reflecting what both animatronics' daytime conditions are like. Mangle's quest, there's a guy in there that runs back and forth that he seems very scared of Mangle, but he runs right to her, away from her, with complete disregard in where she is, which would describe the person trying to escape Mangle. They can't tell where they are, if they are running or to or from the danger. If she touches him, she exits a minigame, which is probably a representation of what she does in the Bite of 87, but Balloon Boy also starts in the same position and has an exit from the minigame not shaped like an exit door. Could that show his involvement in the Bite of 87 as well? A security guard before entering Kids Cove would walk right past Balloon Boy. These many types of different connections, which indicates Kids Cove is probably the room that Balloon Boy and Balloon Girl was supposed to perform, so the programming that limits Balloon Boy's movement would not stop him from entering the room. And having a purple guy there adds a lot of value to being there next to the carousel. When he'd entered this quiet and dark condition, that had set off Mangle's nighttime mode during the day, and now potentially himself if he stays too long. When Balloon Boy attacks, he remove your batteries from your flashlight and put it in his mouth. He does this in less than a second, and is able right at the end of every night, and the security guard can't even think of any way to stop him. So the security guard paying attention to something else is all that is needed. Mangle's around there and sticks out completely out there, while Balloon Boy is half the size, in the darkness, and potentially a lot more quiet than Mangle. So the security guard would be focused on Mangle, and perfect place to sneak up and grab the batteries. When Balloon Boy touches the giant balloon, it disappears. Since everything seems to be the same in both minigames, Mangle collects the parts, so Balloon Boy making the balloon disappear means he's collecting them. And giant balloon is a symbol of power, so Balloon Boy is collecting the symbol of powerful. A large amount of visuals activates the programming that prevents the animatronics from getting their revenge year after year. It'd be one of the biggest obstacles. The flashlight is a visual weapon that activates programming to stop them, so Balloon Boy taking the batteries would be him removing the most powerful threat by collecting it, just like he does to the giant balloon. Now, title similarities can now be shown. First, it starts with a name of the animatronic that involved in Kids Cove, and then followed by adventure and quest, which are interchangeable and would be referring to the quest to get revenge. But Balloon Boy has a balloon in front of his one. The balloon represents him, he was grabbing the power, disarming the flashlight, so represented in a very certain way in which he disarms the flashlight in his adventure, while Mangle has a normal quest, going after the purple guy. Mangle being in a 24-hour attacking state, trapped in Kids Cove, can be a reason why someone in there was trying to convince all the security guards from entering the room. The Bite of 87 could be the difference that was stated earlier because of the starting positions and how they interact with the games and portrayed. That doesn't create a strong likelihood that the Kids Cove is an arcade. With the new information and more parts of FNAF 3 now revealed that seem to have possible connections to this, there was a possessed arcade machine that is an animatronic Chica, using it to astral project. Now Chica has been thrown out when the last restaurant closed and never recovered by this company, Fedbar Fight, so this possession of arcade machine must have taken place in one of the restaurants. Surviving arcade machines from the first restaurant would be in a sealed room that was first opened and contents moved to the horror attraction. The second day of your shift, while the arcade room and possessed arcade machine showed no changes, so it's unrelated. Only option would be the arcade machine from the Kids Cove in the second restaurant. Chica is being used for parts for the new animatronics during the second restaurant. During the second restaurant, we have 3 animatronics are like potential recipients of the parts in Kids Cove, while Chica is stored in the opposite side of the building. The cake and crying child part is seen in the other minigames as a mechanism to free the children's souls. Same across the minigames, so probably it's its own separate entity that can only exist in unrelated minigames, so the only part of the minigame not explained yet is the collection of parts and the scoring mechanism. All remaining paths seem to be all talking about possessed parts. When this thing first appeared, they had an incident that to put parts from the old animatronics into new animatronics, so since everything's talking about possessed parts, this could be indicating an origin story. Now the 3 animatronics that astral project in his horror attraction office would have been used for parts in these new animatronics, and one of them has a direct connection to Kids Cove. So let's see if the minigame inputting this information does it say the same thing and does it give it any specific details like it's been doing all this time. Both animatronics' actions are the same due to the rules, but Mangle adds a rule. The parts are attached together into a working thing. Each part, even though they have major differences, are all counted as 100 points and as a single part collected. Like all the parts are contributing in one way to one objective. Once all the parts are collected, the lower levels become available. When the parts are apart, the minigame is very normal, but when they're together, all these strange things start happening, like the description of when this thing was potentially created. And with that, every single aspect of the 2 minigames has now been used, and all parts given a detailed explanation that don't conflict at all with each other. That this minigame is a description of everything that was inside Kids Cove during the Bite of 87, and the involvement of the things inside Kids Cove. And I'm talking about combination of old animatronic parts in new animatronic parts, since Balloon Boy and Mangle is already represented, and a combination would describe a single animatronic with connections to the 3 Kids Cove animatronics, that would be describing Balloon Girl. And since Balloon Girl was missing the attack behaviors in one of the restaurants while she stayed away in the other restaurant, Chica, Foxy, and Freddy all attacked, giving her a missing behavior. And like Mangle and Balloon Boy, it was shown in second restaurant office and the other in the horror attraction office. And FNAF 2 offers potential long pause in your office without the lights flickering, with the representation of her in one of the 2 minigames and her involvement in the Bite of 87, which is no involvement shown. An exact match. Balloon Girl does not display any unusual differences to, like she's just one of the infected. And the description says that it's inside of her. The description on the tree says that these 3 separate animatronics is linked to a separate entity. In the minigames, Balloon Girl and this thing uses some of the same thing to describe themselves as an individual. So it sounds to me like this is more like a parasite within Balloon Girl, which spreads by being in close proximity. This theoretical creature, since it's been giving a lot of effects in Kids Cove, I'm going to name it after that place, calling it the Curse of Kids Cove. This thing definitely spreads possession, but nothing gathered by Fedbar Fight matches the original source description, the mechanical parts in Balloon Girl as a whole. If they gather this stuff, it'd be in fragments, which others can't haunt the thing, they're all in fragments, and it emphasizes about this whole thing that's all the parts together created it. But the power it displays seems to be unhindered regardless, and it's just as relevant, possibly even more powerful than it was before in the second restaurant. With that in mind, we go to the last subject, the ending of FNAF 3, which the horror attraction burns away, destroying everything inside the building. There are 2 endings. One is when the children are at peace before the burning away and the souls pass on, and the other, the children haunting self-possesses the animatronics. Look at it this way. If the company decided to throw away these things that were still possessed and therefore survived the fire, so they'd still be around, but instead slowly rot away to nothingness and the souls be released, it would theoretically take time, but bad ending would eventually become the good ending. The marionette is not represented. Only explanation is that it burned itself away, releasing its soul. Therefore, anyone with any knowledge of what truly happened and potentially these souls still temporarily being around and how to help them pass on soon is gone now if it's a bad ending. But this eventually good ending is not what's stated in the bad ending. The ending scene shows the word bad ending with visuals of 5 of the murdered children's not finding peace within the animatronics, which is kind of feeling like they never move on. Yet everything is rotting already been burned away once you see this. But the Curse of Kids Cove is unique. Not only after it was thrown in the garbage over a decade ago and had probably been exposed to the elements, it was not only powerful enough to have an effect, its prevalence seems to be just as strong or even stronger. Like the massive exposure did nothing. All its objectives were fulfilled, and most were shown and introduced during this time, right before the burning, and that means this decade of time didn't harm the Curse of Kids Cove, and since Fredbear Fright did the best they could to gather up all the authentic merchandise, especially a full animatronic, since they didn't find it, it's unlikely anyone else would. Therefore, it's unlikely to have a change in environment around the curse that is preserving it. And these 5 children are trapped. There are 2 possibilities. These are the 5 animatronics that we use for parts in this thing. One of the 2 experimental animatronics was stolen, and ever since then, one was following the killer, while the other one was following a restaurant. The one following the restaurant is Golden Freddy, so that's one they had during a point in time when they were taking parts out of them. Or these 4 animatronics are used for parts in these things and representing the life form that's still around. In which, in a good ending, it's not shown, which means can exist without possession. Both these can have the definition, these are the animatronics that are stuck with it and a new life form. Therefore, provide an eternal tomb for the children, souls, since no one left, including the puppet, who, being a child, might not fully grasp the situation before releasing its own soul. A non-rotting possessed equipment needed to maintain children's tomb, which nothing else matches that description besides the Curse of Kids Cove. I asked what was happening with Balloon Girl over a year ago, and I finally now released this theory. It's radical but gives a detailed explanation on everything used, and I tried my best but I can't find anything that would conflict with it in any way. I hope this high amount of research and stringent fact-checking will convince you of this theory. I would like to have been shorter, but the only way of really unlocking data is if I've used all these things at once, so I wasn't able to split this video up. Now it's time for me to end this. This has been the Deer Runner, the Runner of Deer. Thanks for watching.